All right, so let's get into the NFL honors. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes won the MVP. We'll get into that in a second. But I don't know about you guys, but I felt like the biggest snub from the Cincinnati Bengals, reminder for those, in case you forgot, the Cincinnati Bengals went to the AFC Championship, and yet the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals did not receive a single vote for Coach of the Year. Brian Daboll won, and Brian Daboll is probably the man that should have won it. But ZAC Taylor didn't receive a single vote. Let me break this down for you guys. He took a team that started 0-2 to the playoffs. I don't think you guys need to know how rare that is. But in case you don't, since 2007, of the 107 teams that have started 0-2 in the NFL, only 12 of them had made the postseason. The Bengals obviously went to the AFC Championship. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but after the Bengals made this miracle run to the Super Bowl last year, it was a trendy pick to say that the Bengals wouldn't even win the AFC North. Colin Cowherd, probably the most aforementioned voice in NFL, frequently said before the season he doesn't think the Bengals would win the AFC North. Our very own Trace Fowler was like, the Bengals aren't going to win the North. Because it seemed like a logical pick, just a miracle run, the Bengals, and you expect them to get better, but oftentimes they don't. But the Bengals did. And that is much because of their head coach. And let's break down their season even further. They didn't lose a regular season game in November, December, and January. And what did they do in the postseason? They welcomed in the team that was preseason favorites, the betting favorites to win the AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens. Beat them. Then they went on the road and beat the preseason Super Bowl favorites and the Buffalo Bills. Not to mention the fact that they were 3 seconds away from going to overtime with the Kansas City Chiefs with a trip to the Super Bowl on the line. And somehow, ZAC Taylor didn't get a single vote for Coach of the Year in the NFL. And no one more than Cincinnatians get on ZAC Taylor's case. I mean, if you go back to week 3, we wanted his head on a stake. We wanted him fired. We wanted him shipped out. But it is undoubtedly an amazing job that he's done with the Cincinnati Bengals. Casey, you're an opinionated Bengals fan.
Yeah.
How do you feel about ZAC Taylor not getting any recognition at the NFL honors?
Oh, I mean, I think it's honestly a disgrace. I mean, I'm shocked that he didn't at least get one vote. You didn't even mention the fact that we lost some crucial key pieces to our team and still managed to win ball games. We were without Jamar Chase for a whole month. We were without DJ Reader for a whole month. We had injuries to our 2 edge rushers, Sam Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson. We lost our top corner, and we still managed to win ball games. It just goes to show that the respect, the respect is just not there for our team. That's just what it really boils down to. It's just not there. At least the league, the other coaches, whoever is voting, does not respect the Bengals enough to at least give them one vote.
Let's break this down even further on this whole voting results thing. We're not talking, like I said, Brian Daboll deserved to be the coach of the year. I think he did the best job. I mean, he turned that Giants team around, turned Daniel Jones into a very good quarterback.
That's right, Reed. That's right, Reed.
But I think Brian Daboll deserves it. We're not talking about like 10 votes going to 3 guys. 8 different NFL coaches got a first place vote. 8. 1/4 of the league. And not one voter voted for ZAC Taylor. So Brian Daboll had the most first place votes with 16. And I'm reading this right off of NFL.com. Kyle Shanahan, the 49ers coach, 12 first place votes. Well deserving. Doug Peterson, he had 5 first place votes. He finished 3rd. Sean McDermott had 7 first place votes. And a reminder, Sean McDermott was coaching the team that was given the Lombardi Trophy before the season. And he didn't even get his team to the AFC Championship. But that was probably because Zach Taylor's team played him in the postseason. It's tough to beat a team coached by Zach Taylor. Nick Sirianni got 6 first-place votes. He deserves some acclaim. Kevin O'Connell had a first-place vote. Dan Campbell had a first-place vote. And the Chiefs, Andy Reid, first-place vote. But no, Zach Taylor, he wasn't even listed getting any votes. No votes.
No votes. I mean, it's shock. It really is shocking to me. I really can't fathom that because Kyle Shanahan, yes, you're down a quarterback, and that's significant throughout your season. But the fact that you really didn't go through much else, whereas the Bengals went through an appendectomy scare. They went through...
Heck yeah, bring up that appendectomy.
Go.
Let's talk about that appendectomy.
There's so much that happened in the Bengals season that just, like, you could see the change. Like, there's a clear change from the beginning of the season, Bengals, to where they ended up. And they were in the game without, the championship game, without 3 of their starting offensive linemen. I beg everyone, all those voters, to go and look at all the last couple of games where you were down at least 2 of your starting linemen and see if they won that ball game. Because I doubt they did. I bet they got blown out. But the Bengals, they just, there's no flowers for them. They are the villains of the league, and they know it. So,
do you really think that the NFL thinks the Bengals are the villains? Do you think that?
Hang on. The teams, they've already said it. The Bengals think of themselves as the villains.
Okay.
So that's where I'm getting that from. I'm pulling a quote from a player. I can't recall what player it was or which coach said it. But there's obviously some sort of, like, if the votes are from peers in the league, it makes sense. That's what I'm saying. It makes sense that the teams and the coaches and the players didn't vote for anything of the Bengals because they're the villains of the league.
It's nationwide media, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's the AP. That's how they.
Yeah.
I presume that they vote because that's how every other league does it. The writers.
Well, again, that still proves my point that there's still no respect there. There's no like consideration. If there was at least someone that considered it, they would have voted for the Bengals. But there was no thought. There was no vote for Zach Taylor. And I feel like there's a strong case for him to at least have gotten a first-place vote.
Yeah, I don't know if he would have won the award.
He didn't deserve to win, truthfully.
No.
But
I don't. Yeah, you can't ignore what happened in the first 5 to 6 weeks of the season, especially through that Baltimore game. You have to look at the totality of the season, and he did not have a great first few weeks between losing to Pittsburgh, losing to Dallas, and then the way they lost at Baltimore on that Sunday night game. I don't think you can ignore those, but at the same time, to not at least have gotten one vote somewhere when all these guys, if it's like between
1/4 of the league.
Yeah, if it's between 2 or 3 guys, and you're like, okay, they split it between Dable and 2 other guys. All right.
Well, the best comparison is Kyle Shanahan because they went through a very similar situation where they started off really rough, turned it around, won 11 in a row or 12 in a row. Very similar to the Bengals situation, except the difference is their injury-plagued season was based off the quarterback position, which is the biggest position in football. But the Bengals had so much more. Their depth was tested, and their challenge was much greater than the 49ers, in my opinion, because they had a quarterback that came in, and now they're talking about him. That's the starter now for next year. Like, that to me is different than when you got a backup, Jay Tufele, who just gets blown out by the Browns, and you find a way to make it work towards the end. You find a way to replace a Jamar Chase when there's no replacing Jamar Chase. There's a way to replace Jimmy Garoppolo, and that was clear as day.
Right.
So that's my gripe, is that there's no in-depth thought on the Bengals situation throughout the season. And, there's no – and here's the last thing I'll say about it too. Sean McDermott got a lot of votes too.
You're right.
I'm pretty sure it was Coach Taylor that made the decision to stop the Bills game. That alone, to me, just from that, deserves a merit vote because the guy's a good guy. He's a good character. Why is Sean McDermott getting 7 votes? That makes no sense. Makes no sense.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything you guys are saying. And it's easy with hindsight, right? To look back at the Bengals season and go, yeah, they have all this talent. They have one of the best 3 quarterbacks, best 2 quarterbacks in the league. They should be competing for an AFC championship. But if you go back to the way this team was talked about preseason, you'll be quick to remember that we weren't even favorites to win the division a year after winning the division and having a lead in the Super Bowl with 2 minutes to go. It's almost asinine to think that there's a quarter of the coaches in the NFL are getting recognition for Coach of the Year, and not one of them is ZAC Taylor. ZAC Taylor's not without his flaws, and we are quick to judge not only in this city, on this show, ZAC Taylor, but come on. Not a single vote? Not a single vote? It's crazy.